Guys, as you can tell, I'm clearly not in the regular setup. That is because I came home to Houston for Thanksgiving to spend it with my family. And while I was here, Oda dropped an absolute banger of a chapter that absolutely cannot be in short video format. And so, here I am. The things I do for you people. Pardon the background, pardon the echo, we're gonna have to get through it. Because this chapter is absolutely loaded. I'm not joking when I say that this may be the chapter that connects so many dots at once. Maybe the most since I've started reading One Piece weekly. And that's crazy to say when there is literally the mural chapter that came out. But I'm getting ahead of myself, y'all. Before we get into the review, you know what I need you to do. Like the video, okay? That's very important. Subscribe to the channel for more One Piece content just like this every week. And share it around with all your friends who love the series. You know we always say here, let's get it going. Now you already know that something's up if the chapter is called Ida's son. But just remember, we're still in the low-key flashback technically. What that means is, of course, as the One Piece curse goes, mothers cannot survive flashback. And unfortunately, as we'll see, Ida is no exception. Also, the cover page is really cute. It's Genzo and Nojiko watching a cat steal something, which is obviously in reference to Nami's title as the cat burglar. So we start off 33 years ago, 5 years after God Valley, and what we see is that the rat Morgans is on some island. This guy was telling Morgans about how he was drifting in the sea and some huge figure came out of the mist and destroyed his ship. In Impel Down, similarly, another prisoner is saying kind of the same story. Basically, what we have circulating is a bunch of folk tales that have emerged about Harold. Harold was contracted under the government to basically survey the waters around certain regions, and then if any of them ended up being pirate ships, literally just jump out of them and slash them to smithereens. Which, for anybody having doubts about Harold rebelling and everything like that, look, it's possible that he did that at the end, but he's definitely a government dog right now. Meanwhile, we have confirmation that the big pirates after God Valley have Kaido, Whitebeard, Big Mom, and interestingly enough, also Shiki and Wang Ji. Side note to mention that Wang Ji in this picture really looks like Caribou. But then as we cut through the years, what we see is that the Roger pirates are in fact the ones who have broken through and actually circumnavigated the globe. Of course, after they captured him, Roger's execution at Locktown was supposed to be a spectacle to show people, yo, piracy is done. But of course, we all know what really happened that day. The one random guy in the crowd shouted, hey, where your treasure at? It was all changed from then on. And because of the huge surge in pirates during the Great Pirate Era, that's when giants started becoming drafted into the marine. And we have Harold meeting with the Gorosei. Now, do y'all remember when I kept joking about how, oh, Imu's powers have certain packages and like you sign up for a different subscription? Like, I was making jokes about that? Well, turns out that's actually what happens, because Harold has formed what is known as a shallow sea contract. It grants him the authority and power of a god steel, one rank below the god's knight. That's when the Gorosei explained that there are in fact 3 levels to contracts. The shallow sea contract, which is what Harold has, is kind of like the lowest tier. But then you have the deep sea contract and the deep sea contract. I imagine the deep sea contracts are for god's knights and deep sea is just for the Gorosei themselves, for those truly bound to Imu and worshipping him as god. And they give us a number. Only 13 individuals at a time can have this power, which seems to set up that that is the number of final players that we have to contend against. 13 of them plus Imu as 14. If we count the 5 God's Knights in that number, then there are 8 individuals with this power. But we know that there are more than 8 God's Knights, which means are there some God's Knights who don't have the power? I still have questions about how it shakes down, but it's incredible that we actually have a number. Then Harold is like, what do you mean by God? Which means that even as a god steel, he isn't told the secrets of Imu yet, which Nezjiro states he can only get when he actually fully devotes himself and becomes a god's knight. Which Harold is like, hey, if that is gonna make Elbaf a member nation, listen, I'll be honored. Now that we think about it, why wasn't Kuma just contracted? Maybe because Saturn is just especially sadistic? Because I mean, they have Harold working as like a warlord basically, but it's even closer connection. To be fair, maybe it's because Saturn didn't actually tell the rest of them what was going on. After that meeting, we cut to Shangara, the Temple of the God's Knights, where we have Harold having a conversation with Garling, Somers, and Shamrock. Somers is just like, so you really gonna listen to us? And Harold is like, of course. Garling's like, hey, listen, now that you're one of us, you're free to do what you want, as long as you don't tell nobody about that. Then we cut to 20 years ago at Ryugu Kingdom, where it's revealed to us that Harold and King Neptune are friends. Apparently, they're just palling around, laughing together and talking about their feelings, which is honestly important for men's mental health. You don't see that often these days. Harold is telling Neptune about Loki and all his antics, and Neptune is just like, well, I mean, hey, listen, Loki's a kid, and hey, look who his father used to be. Can you blame him? Then Neptune is like, a fortune teller told me that 4 years from now, I'm gonna have a crazy powerful daughter. When we do, why don't we betroth her to Loki? Like, obviously in the future, but still. Hold up. They were plotting on Shirahoshi and Loki being together? I'm not gonna lie, this political alliance thing is actually mental. Y'all, if that went through, wait. The Fishman Island Elbaf Union may be crazy powerful. You take Loki and how strong he is and add an ancient weapon to that, and now there's a driver for that to actually happen because they're both allies of Luffy. Harold is like, well, let's cheers to my little mischievous maker and your Mosa Mosa. And Neptune is like, hey, don't call her that because she's not gonna be Shaggy. Y'all, Mosa is Shirahoshi. Mosa, as in Loki's pen pal that we had learned about a while back, is actually Princess Shirahoshi herself. And this is just wow. But also, Mosa had mentioned that the place where they're at is currently on fire. So Fishman Island is being attacked? Blackbeard actually may be attacking Fishman Island currently to try and capture Shirahoshi because he knows that she's an ancient weapon because of Caribou. Yo, this is what I mean when I say the dots are connecting. Now that same year, 20 years ago, after the Ohara incident, is when you have Saw arriving on Elbaf. And Harold is just like, Saw, if you would do me the greatest honor, could you please open up a library here? And of course Saul agrees because he's Saul. Now this is where things get interesting, so pay attention. 15 years ago, we cut to Mary Joa, and that is when Fisher Tiger climbed up the Red Line and attacked Mary Joa to free all the slaves. As we see Fisher Tiger running through the night, a mysterious figure who looks ominously like a Figureland family member darts forward, slashes one of those explosive collars off of Fisher Tiger to free him, and then is like, listen, the armory will be unlocked for you. I'll tell you where it is, where you can find it. And then we see, of course, the Boa sisters also being freed during this time, as well as Little Koala. And y'all, it was Shanks. Shanks was in the Holy Land and literally aided Fisher Tiger's escape. This is wild because we knew that Shanks had gone back, but we didn't know when. But now this is even more interesting because Shanks is trying to play the government. And we see this because like either the next day or sometime soon after, they were meeting as the Gods Knights again. And Garling took the time to introduce his son Shanks to Harold, where Garling explains that Shanks is Shamrock's twin brother and they were separated at birth, but he's finally come back to his heritage. He would be an asset on par with Shamrock if he formed the Deep Sea contract, but for now, he has the same rank as you. Harold is just like, I'm sorry, I can't shake the feeling that I've met you before. Just a side note on its own of where would they have met? But that's where we see God's Knight's Shanks. First of all, he has gauze over his eyes, indicating that at some point in the recent past is when his encounter with Blackbeard was. Shanks is just like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're just a giant commoner from the surface. Don't associate you. I'm blessed with Figureland blood, which makes me superior to everybody else. And I'm not gonna lie, isn't it obvious that Shanks is playing them? As they turn to leave, Shanks and Shamrock head out, and Shanks is just like, yo, please, let's just go and you teach me more about our heritage, because the way that I've wasted my life down there on the surface, it was horrible. Shamrock mentions design and is like, yo, you know, it could wait until you're healed. But Shanks is just like, nah, I hated everything. Now this is interesting to me because while I obviously know that Shanks is playing them and he's pretending and whatever, I do feel like that part where he looked viscerally disgusted, something did happen. No doubt, probably relating to Blackbeard. But y'all, the fact that we have a timeline for Shanks becoming a God's Knight actually finally connects the dots on a theory that I've been thinking about, specifically in relation to what Roger told him and how Shanks' entire story and motivation play out from here. And that theory should be coming Thursday, so get excited. And then we cut to Elbaf, where the chapter of the title comes full circle, because what we see is that Ida is sick in bed. Ida is just like, please keep the bar running for me, which is how Mato is currently the bar owner in the present day. Of course, Harold is still good to Ida, and he's always advocating for the two of them to be legally married, but the elders keep refusing. Of course, Harold is also government dog, so he's not here right now. And then we have Loki just shouting, yo, foreign hag. And as Mato comes outside, Loki's just like, I killed this bear for that old hag. Please cook it up for her. The tavern is my main hangout spot, so she needs to reopen. The doctor who's been tending to Ida is just like, that troublemaker, he's been doing a lot, but you managed to keep him in line really well. And between that and Haruden and his band of pirates going off to find a doctor, it seems like both of your boys really love you. Because we see, of course, Haruden and the new giant warrior pirates when they were younger are actually sailing around. But this is showing us that Ida truly does consider Loki her child, such to the extent that the people around her are also noticing that. And as we'll see, Loki does too. Because we cut to Alcohol Village, which if you'll remember is the village where Loki's real mom, Estrid, is from. And as it turns out, one of Estrid's relatives poisoned Ida, with the mentality of, we can't let this foreign random ass woman become the next queen of Elbaf, so we have to take her out now. You're with us, right, Loki? Loki was not with them. You see Ida lying in bed with the fever, really weak, and she's just like, I see him the same way that I heard him, one of my boys. Then you have Loki as just this ominous, deathly standing above, just like, hold on. Ida's not gonna die, right? And the next thing we see, Loki has completely burned Alcohol Village to the ground, defeating everybody else and holding the elder by his throat. The Estrid that you're claiming to do this for hated me. She threw me into the underworld to die, and I would have if I wasn't him. You're talking about inheritance this, inheritance that. I don't care about that. Now I'm gonna repeat my question again. Ida's not gonna die, right? Because as far as my life is concerned, she is the only mother I've ever known. Showing, of course, Loki's true emotions spilling through. Showing that despite everything that happened, he cares for Ida because she cared about him. It seems like the hole created by Estrid being a horrible person is starting to be filled up by Ida. Which of course means that in the next chapter, we're obviously gonna see something bad happen to her and that hole basically be emptied again. But y'all, this was, oh my goodness. To me, this was one of the best chapters of the flashback because it connects so many different things. I mean, you have Shank stuff, implications for Shirahoshi and therefore Blackbeard stuff. Well, of course, we're still priming to see the Loki and Herald plotline resolve. Which, speaking of, I can't imagine that this flashback is lasting any longer than 1 to 2 chapters. Since all this happened 15 years ago, and we know that the huge incident with Herald happened 14 years. Wait, I didn't even realize! When he took over Gunko's body and shot off Broggy's arm, the first move that he used was Curl Demonic Contract. So I think what that means is that Domi Reversi is based off of one of the levels of that contract. Maybe a level where you actually don't have control over whether you transform or not. Because it seems like they're forcibly turned by Imu, as opposed to people like the Gorosei who have their own powers and can go into it. Not gonna lie, this is the best time to be a One Piece fan. This chapter is getting a 9 out of 10 for me. I was locked in from the beginning to the end. But I want to hear from you. What was your favorite part of this chapter? And trust, there's definitely a lot of options to choose from. Make sure to let me know all that and more in the comments below. Now that is the end of the video, y'all, but you know what we gotta do. Like it, subscribe, share it around with all your friends. That's gonna be all for me. I'll catch you on the next one. And always remember, One Piece, One Life. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a flight to catch.